Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Song of Silveranth. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Song of Silveranth by Red Raven Games. Now this is a sponsored video. This is also a prototype demo copy in front of me, so all rules, components, things like that are subject to change. And something to note is that this is definitely a very demo version where it was made for creators to be able to show things to you. So just know that a lot of this is going to be a much higher quality version. And with that being said, this is a Game Found campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned, and that would be a great place for you to see the quality of everything that they are planning for the game, because I know there's going to be a regular version as well as a deluxe, so you can check all of that out. Now, Song of Silveranth is going to be an open world adventure game that's going to be cooperative for 1 to 4 players, where you're able to play solo where you're controlling 2 characters, but otherwise, if you're playing with at least 1 friend or 3 others, you are going to have 1 character each. So this is going to be a major change from other titles you may know of from Red Raven Games that provide a similar experience, where every player is just going to have 1 character to control, again, unless you're playing solo, and then you only have 2. So that's going to be one of the major changes, but you're going to have Ven with you, because that's going to be a whole part of the story, is that Ven, well, he has a glass blowing factory within his family, and all of a sudden, one day, his dad is just gone. But he wasn't just gone, he was taken away for debt. So they have imprisoned him, they say you owe a ton of money, and you'll find out more about that story because it's an adventure game where you're going to learn more and more about the story, but the point of what you're trying to do is save him by saving up as many funds as possible, and you guys are quite in debt, so it's going to take you a bit of time to make that much money. But you can't take too much time, because the clock on this game, it's a very open world, it will take you a very long time to play. There are going to be many days in the game, but it is limited to the number of these event cards which represent your different days. So there are 50 of them that you'll start off with, and you can add some, but that's very rare. So you're going to have around 50 days to play with, but some things are also going to take those cards away from you. So that's going to be even shorter and shorter, and you're just going to have only so many days to try to save your dad, save up as much money as possible, but along the way you're going to find other characters that might join your team that might add something a little bit special to the team as well. Now, in front of you is everything that you'll need to be playing for a either solo or 2-player game with 2 characters here. And this main book here is the Atlas, which you're going to be exploring. Now, there is going to be a journey log, as you can see here, and just to give you a sense of how these maps connect, there is a map on this side that shows we are currently here. So you can see that this spread between pages 6 and 7 is where we currently are, and it just kind of gives you an idea of how large this area is that you're going to be able to explore. But players are going to play through different days, and as I noted, your event cards are going to limit how many days you have left. So taking a look here at this handy dandy sheet, you're going to have on your turn the option to either venture or rest each day. So resting is, as you can imagine, where you're going to recover and get some things back, but it is going to cost you some time, which we'll go over in a little bit. But the main thing that players are going to be doing is venturing. So when you venture, first you're going to draw an event card, and if you'll ever reach 4 event cards, you'll discard the last one and then lose 1 hope. Now this hope is going to be really important for you. One of the things it provides is rerolls. It also helps you when you're doing discourse checks, but it's also going to force you to rest if you ever reach 0 hope. So make sure that that doesn't happen, because it can be very dangerous. So taking a look here, the first event card that would come out is Unlucky Town's Trader. Now this is one that if you're in a location that matches this, you're able to do this action. So as you can see, there is this area over here, and you're going to discard any 3 resources to gain 5 money and a music note. Now I'll get into what the music notes mean for you in a bit, because that's going to be a very thematic part of the game, but that's going to be an event card that comes out for the players to deal with. Now after that, players are going to be able to continue with moving either 0, 1, or 2 on this atlas here, and the spine of the atlas also separates areas, so it would be 1 movement, for example, to go over to this area here. Now, something that's very interesting is that after that, you're either going to be able to have an encounter with the storybook or a location if you have one available to you where you are on the atlas. So if we chose to not move, we could stay here and read what these entries are here, either 1 or 3, and that is the beginning of the story, so that's a decision point where you may want to do that because it might set you up for success in the future. But every game that you're going to play of this is going to be very, very unique, where you're making these branching decisions right from the beginning. Now, this is a haven, so you're able to travel to there later and then read them later if you want to, so we could choose to just leave because we want to trigger this event and do that with our resources, and then read a different entry from somewhere else. So every gameplay that you're going to play of this is going to feel very different. You have those 50 days that you're playing with, and you can only play one version at a time, so when you play, you are going to take any cards that get discarded or come out of play, you're going to put them in this box, and you're able to reset it at the end of the game. So every play you're going to have is going to be very unique, and there are a lot of characters for you to be able to play as, so you can swap those in and out and try someone else in the next time. Now, there is a mechanic where you are able to swap these characters in and out even during the general gameplay, where if you decide a certain character just isn't working for you, you can swap them out, play with a new one. But when you play different campaigns, you can also try to commit to playing different groups of characters together. So keeping with that theme, I will have us move over to here, and we will be able to have an interaction with the storybook for entry 2. Now, just to note, this is one of the pieces that is very much a demo version, as this is just printed out, but you would go to entry 2, and in a multiplayer game, the player to the left would read this. But you can actually see here, entry 2 is POV Ven, meaning that whoever was to the left of the player with Ven would be the one reading this to them, because Ven always has to be in play. So this reads, "The village is quiet, but for the squawk of chickens and an old thatcher singing a folk tune while mending the roof nearby. The butcher gives you a friendly nod as you stroll down the cobbles." And then the player would have a choice, whoever's controlling Ven, to either visit the Stoneyard Inn, talk to the butcher, sneak around town looking for something to steal. And depending on what you choose, you may turn to a certain entry. For example, visit the Stoneyard Inn is unavailable if you have a Sir Ferris, wonder what he did to deserve that. But you can also talk to the butcher to turn to 2.2, or if they did choose to sneak, it would have been a thievery test. So when you're testing certain skills, you're going to roll your d10, and you're going to add anything that you may have added to your skills. So for example here, Ven is the one that's being tested in this example because it's naming him, but he doesn't have anything extra in that, whereas Zernzig here actually has all skills +1, so he would have had +1 to this roll. So you would roll a die. Here we have a 4, which isn't quite enough, but if Ven happened to have any adventure cards that he would want to play to add to that roll, he would be able to do so. Otherwise, if they fail, we would lose 1 hope, which is on this track here, and then -1 with the Tressemont reputation, which is tracked over here on your journal. You have reputation with all of these different houses, and it becomes very, very important because as your reputation changes, different narrative points will change for you throughout the game. So that would happen, no reward, and then return to the map. So you would get kicked out. Otherwise, you could gain 2 coins, 1 asset, and 1 torch, return to the Atlas, which would be pretty good. Now, that would be the end of the day for the venture phase, other than any minor actions that you can do. So you can see here we have some minor actions available to us, and one of them is the event action. So for this event action, we can pay any 3 resources to gain 5 money as well as a music note. So we're going to choose some resources here. Torches are pretty good for us when we need a light. The ropes do help us reroll, but we are able to use our hope to reroll as well. So I think maybe the ropes as well as the mushrooms and the fruit. We'll get rid of those 3, and then we're going to be able to gain 5 coins as well as a music note. And something else that is a minor action when venturing that is great is that you're able to do a market action. And you can see that we are in a place with a market, whereas previously we weren't. So we are able to do that as well. Now there's the market deck, and when this happens, you're able to draw the top 7 cards and then see what you can afford. Now, since we just gained 5 money, that's pretty good for us. Some of these things are expensive, but some of them are not. As you can see, this great sword and this flintlock rifle we wouldn't be able to afford, but we could buy ourselves a healer's kit or perhaps a recipe, some armor. I think our best bet is we are going to buy a healer's kit for ourselves. So you're going to be able to buy this for the team, and then you would make the change, and that would be a market action. Now, as I've alluded to, songs are going to be very important in the game as well, and that's one of the minor actions that you're also able to do. So all players have this deck of songs that are available to them, and you're going to be able to add songs to that as you start discovering some, but you're going to be able to spend your music notes to be able to play them, and you'll have them ongoing until you rest. So just picture that the song is ongoing in your mind, and you're listening to it until you're finally able to sleep and get it out of your head, which means that it's very good because it's an ongoing effect, but it can become very bad when you start having multiple songs playing forever in your head until you're able to rest. So you have this mind song track where if we did want to perform a song, for example, this one would cost us 3 music notes. We do have one that we are able to pay, so we'll be able to pay this to play it, but that's only one, and we need 2 more, meaning that we would have to pay on this track here. So we would pay 1, 2, but now all of our rolls will be at -1. So it can be very dangerous for certain characters to have too many songs playing in their mind without the music notes to be able to play them. But you would be able to take this card here, slot it under this character, and then they have this ongoing ability, which is this character has +2 stealth and +1 senses. Now, there are ways to uncover songs that are deeper within your deck, but now you can see that Chant of Fire is available for either this player or another player to start having going on in their head. As I said, this might become a little bit dangerous for Zig here, but Ven perhaps could start playing this song. He could even pay the 3 and he would only be at -1, or if he's able to get a music note, he wouldn't be at any detriment at all, and then he would have the Chant of Fire here, which is once per day, this character can throw dancing fire at an enemy, dealing 2 damage ranged. And that is going to be once per day until you choose to rest, so that can be very, very strong. Now, the final minor action is going to be attacking, but you can attack in 2 different ways in this game. So there are going to be times when you're on this atlas and event cards are going to put some enemies straight on the atlas where you're going to want to attack them. And when you do that, you're able to do it once per character. But you're also going to go into the location book and zoom in on certain areas, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But when that happens, you're also able to attack during the character phase. So attacking is going to look the same either way, but it just depends where you're doing it, whether you're doing it on the atlas or in the location board. So I'll go over attacking in a moment. First, I'm going to go over what the other phases look like, such as resting. Now, when players rest, first thing that they're going to have to do is discard 3 event cards. So that's going to be a way that you can see you are losing days just by resting. So you'll discard 3 of them, and some of them may be mandatory, where they're required cards that you have to keep in the event deck. Should that happen, you keep it on top of the deck, but otherwise you'll discard the top 3, losing some days, and then you'll travel to a haven. So on your map, you'll be able to log the different havens, meaning that you'll be able to travel among those, making this a little bit snappier. Now, once you do that, you will then be able to heal as well as restore your hope to 10. Whether you're above 10 or below 10, you'll restore it back to 10 after that rest. And then you'll be able to discard an affliction per character. Afflictions are going to happen when you reach 0 health. Players can have up to 4 afflictions. After the 4th, they will die, but you're able to, once they reach 4, they will die, but you are able to discard these during this time, and if a Ven should ever receive a 4th affliction, they would have to rest immediately to get rid of that, because Ven must always be in play with everybody. Now, after that is when you are able to swap out characters. Again, Ven has to always be there, but if you want to swap out anyone else, you are able to do so, and then you'll proceed to the end of day. Now, this is when players would discard any songs that have been playing in their heads. They would shuffle up the song deck again for all players to be able to use. You would reset your mind songs, and players also then reset their deck of cards. Every player is going to have their starting cards from their starting character. For example, looking at Zig here, you can see that he has 4 cards that he starts off with, and then after that there are some starting cards that are distributed among all players. So depending on the number number of players you have, you might have a smaller deck at the beginning of the game, but this is also going to increase as you gain more adventure cards that are pumped throughout the game. So just to give you an idea of what that might look like, there is going to be a box, and again, this is only the demo version, so this is fewer cards than what the full game will be, but there's going to be a box that's going to reference certain cards. So you're not supposed to look at what they are, they're going to be in a specific order, but for example, if we were told to get card 42, here's card 42, and we would pull that out. So some of these are going to be quest cards, as you can see up here, which I'll go over what those are do in a moment, but some of them are going to be adventure cards that players are able to gain into their deck. Now, when that happens, when you gain them directly into your hand, and you have a hand limit of 5 that whenever you do play a card, as soon as the card effects are resolved, you will draw again immediately, as long as you still have cards in your deck to be able to do so. Now, finally, adventuring might look a little bit different if you choose to go to a location instead. So we chose to read an entry from the storybook, but if you're in a certain spot that has a location, you're able to visit that, and then you're going to go into a certain pace of play of a character phase and then enemy phase if there are any enemies for you to fight. So sometimes you're going to be exploring and finding different things, but more often than not, there are going to be enemies on the board for you to take out as well. So with that, we'll go over what the location book is going to look like, as well as attacking. Now, taking a look at the atlas here, if instead, when we started our turn, we had chosen to go this way, a space does count as going over the spine, but we were able to go over to this area and then move over to the endless cliffs. So if that was something that we chose to do, we would be able to interact with this location or read this journal entry, but we could interact with the location to then take out the location map. So here I'm going to just place it in front of us, but we have a couple things going on. So you can see that we do have our tarnished fairies, and they're going to start in the spawn location with their symbol. So if there were multiple enemies, they would have a different symbol there, perhaps a square, and then you would know where to place them. Now I do have them laying down just for you to be able to see them, but I also have over here a standee version as well as a miniature version for the two characters that we have. So they're both planned for the game, and I thought it would be good to show you both of them. So we have them over here at the entrance. Now, something that's pretty cool is you are able to stealth. So you are able to try to move around without any of the enemies noticing you, but you are also able to attack them. Now, when you read from the storybook, you're going to have a lot of narrative elements where you're reading a lot, you're learning more about the story, and you're having choices to make. Now, when you're in the locations, you're going to be exploring and fighting, but there's still a little blurb for you to know why you're there and what it looks like. So even for this one, for example, your gaze follows an ethereal purple light pulsing in the narrow passage ahead. You notice a pile of dirt-encrusted boots, gloves, and tools nearby, but no sign of their owner. Now, another cool thing is that Ven has a special ability that triggers once per location. So he is able to deploy these two dragonlings that he has, and he could deploy one to Zerzig over here, meaning that he will be able to do a +1 damage when attacking, and he's also able to deploy this onto an enemy to have them do a little bit less damage. So even if this one were to reach them, it's attacking at a little bit less damage now. So now for us to take a look at what fighting might look like, now that Zerzig is a little bit stronger, we might have him do so. So at first you would have them stealth, but then you aren't able to attack, and we're going to have him attack since he's now a little bit stronger. So he is then able to move the 0, 1 to 2, just like on the Atlas board. So we'll have him move 1 over to be able to attack this tarnished fairy over here. And then you're able to attack with a weapon, or perform an action, which may be on the board as well, which we'll go over in a moment. But you have your weapons that are available to everyone, and you are able to have it equipped. So you're able to have up to 2 weapons equipped for your hands, as well as a weight limit. So you can see that this starting dagger over here is only 1 weight, and Zerzig can hold up to 6 weight of things. But you're going to have things like armor as well, so that will contribute to that weight. Now, combat in the system is going to be a bit unique, where it's a bit of a push your luck system where you're able to have your hits be extremely strong. And as someone who can roll very well and also loves a bit of push your luck, it's a great way for you to be able to do a lot of damage to someone, but it's all based on fate. Now, you do have your hope, which can mitigate your rerolls, and you have other things that can help you reroll as well, such as a rope. So you have a little bit of something there, especially if you know how much hope you have. You're going to be able to judge if you want to roll again, if you're willing to chance it, but I do think this system is very interesting. So starting off, when you're using this weapon, you have to roll the number of die that are shown in this spot. So you may have to roll a certain number, and you'll see why you might not want to roll too many dice in a moment, but this one is only one, so it's a very low stake. So here we're going to roll our 1d6, and that's a 6. Now, anything that is a 4, 5, or 6 is going to be placed on this side as a hit, and anything that would be a 1, 2, or 3 would be a blunder and placed on this side here. Now again, we only had to roll 1 die. 1 hit is only going to do 1 damage though. And as you can see over here for our Tarnished Fairy, they have 4 health, sorry, but they have 6 armor, meaning that our blunder die, should we roll some 1s, some 2s, some 3s, if we were ever to hit or exceed that 6 armor, we would bust and not do any damage at all. So if we rolled that 6 and we chose to roll again and it's a 3, okay, well, we'll keep going because it's not quite a 6 yet. Then we roll the 2. Oh my gosh, it's so close. That's not great. Then we roll this 3. Well, perhaps we might spend 3 of our hope to re-roll that final die, hoping for that 4, 5, or 6. Now, I am going to have us keep rolling just to show exactly what that push your luck element looks like, but the other thing to know is that when you do choose to stop rolling and you choose to stop adding dice, then the enemy will counterattack if they're still alive, normally. So normally they would counterattack for this amount here, doing 3 damage back to us, but the Tarnished Fairies are actually quick, meaning that they would do their counterattack damage first. So us attacking them, they would do 2 damage to us, reduced by 1 at least for this guy here. So they would do 2 damage to us before we were ever even able to attack them. So we'll take that damage here. As you can see, Zerzig has 8 health, so that's not too scary for us. And you have resources and things like that that are able to heal you, as well as adventure cards. But if we had our 6 here, we could choose to add a die, roll it, that's another 6, that's great, that's 2 damage for us. Let's add again another 6, you guys. I swear, I just roll like this all the time. So we'll add another one, that's a 5. I see no reason for us not to keep going, although, well, we're already killing him, so I guess we'll choose to stop here, because what's happening is that you can see that this says crit 20 as well. So if you meet or exceed 20 among the pips, we have 23 here, you do an extra 3 damage. So we're currently doing 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1 because of Ven, so 5, 6, 7, 8. And they only have 3 health, so that's more than enough for us to just stop there and take them out. One final thing to note is that Zerzig's ability is each time you miss, gain a combo token. When you hit, deal plus 2 damage per combo. So you'll track that with tokens like this, and then you'll be able to do more and more damage, which will reset each day. So that's a way for you to be able to do more as Zerzig, which may incentivize you to attack enemies as well. Now, other things that players are able to do is take the actions that are on the board. So for example, we may choose to move up here to take certain actions, either to gain certain items or to make certain checks, which are going to be skill checks that players are making pretty often throughout the game. So here you can see that this is a Scholarship 7 test, and you cannot do it again, which is what this symbol is, meaning that if you failed, it would be blocked off. But if you did pass, you would read Storybook 6. So if Ven was doing this, which is the character that moved up there, he actually has Scholarship plus 1 as well. So they'll roll the T10. Here we have a 1, which is really terrible, so I think we would spend our 3 hope to reset that. Reroll again, that's the 0, which is actually a 10, meaning that we succeeded even without our plus 1, we actually got 11. We would succeed and then go on to read Storybook 6. So as you're maneuvering around the map, you'll be fighting enemies, but also finding other things depending on the locations that you're in. Now, one final thing to note is that it's just 1 page in the location book, but a lot of these locations can be 2 pages as well. So there'll be a spread along this book where it could be an area that's even bigger. So just to give you an example, it can get bigger and bigger where there's even more for you to do and uncover. Now, another thing to note is that players are able to leave at any time. So you'll go through this phase of the character phase and then the enemy phase, where the enemies will move toward you and attack if you weren't stealthed that turn. But you're going to be able to leave whenever you want to. So where this game can be dangerous and health does matter, where you don't want to have things be too much of a detriment because you only have so much time to do things, you're never in that much danger, where the heart of the game is going to be uncovering as much as you're able to do, playing through the adventure, crafting your own story, and trying to save your family, where these enemies are going to be very dangerous, but it's never so dangerous that you're ever losing or kicked out of the game. Now, if you think the attacking system is fun with the push your luck element, you're also able to have discourse sometimes with different characters that you interact with. So the storybook may have you interacting with someone, and depending on what you're able to convince them of, perhaps they may join your team, give you something vital, or you may learn things about the story. So there's going to be a discourse element where you're trying to interact with different characters and you're not necessarily fighting them, but it is going to look very similar. So players are going to have their philosophies instead, where you do start off with basic arguments, and you'll see what that will mean in a moment, but you also have philosophies that you will gain that you're able to have one equipped onto each character. So for example, this is classic doctrine. So if we were trying to have a discourse with an imaginary character, for example, if their resolve was an 8, we would place this over here at the 8, and then we would place the blue marker where our current hope level is. So the higher your hope is, the better chances you have at convincing someone during the discourse action, and you'll see why that's very important in a moment. Now, the character's break number, for example, 7 in this case, is going to be the number of blunders that you're able to have among the pips. So if we did have between 1, 2s, and 3s, if it equaled to 7, we would then have a blunder where we would not be able to convince this person, and then we would take their counter attack points before we try to convince them again. Now, another number that the character have is their counter argument, and that's when your tracker will go down. So if your tracker ever does reach 0 before you are able to have theirs reach 0, you are not able to convince them accurately. So for example, we'll use our philosophy here, and at first we have to roll at least 2 d6s, and we'll get +2 to the result. So we'll roll 2 of them, and here we have a 1 and a 5. So we have 1 success as well as 1 blunder. Now with our success, we have already a 3 here, but we'll choose to roll additional dice. So here we'll have a 4, that's an extra success. And just note that as you choose to add dice, you can only add up to 12, so that is going to be your limit. Now we're currently at 4, which is a little bit scary, but I am going to have us roll again. So we'll roll and add a die here. That's another success for us. So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but if we're able to equal 20, we'll get our crit value of an additional 3. So I think we should try to roll a little bit more. Now that 1 isn't the worst for us. I think we'll take it over here in our blunders because this is 7 for their break. So we'll just choose to keep going because we do have hope to reroll. So we'll push our luck again. Now that's not great because now we're hitting that 7. So we'll need to pay 3 hope to re-roll this, which is not great because now we don't have much hope at all, but we will re-roll. That's a 2. That's still not great for us. So let's try one more time because this is really important. And we did choose to roll a die. We shouldn't have done that. We're going to lose all of our successes. Yes. So this is an example where if you did hit this, you braked, you would not be able to do any of this at all to reduce theirs, but they would have their counter argument, which would reduce you by 3, and then another character would be able to choose to enter the discourse to try to reduce that character as well. Now, finally, a major part of the game that's going to pull you through everything is going to be the quest cards that you unlock. So at the beginning of the game, you do start off with both of these, and they kind of give you a lead as to where you might want to be headed. So you can see that they're a specific quest number. As you complete them, you will discard these, but they do have keywords for you to check for when you're reading certain entries. So these keywords are going to become super important because that's how you're going to track everything that you have touched throughout the game, the footprint that you have made, and the things that you've interacted with. And this keyword system is quite clever that you're going to be able to reference that when you open up certain entries and then be able to go to newer entries that perhaps weren't available before because of what you found. Now again, this is also going to be a huge part of the branching pathways because only certain cards and quests are going to show up to you depending on where you go, what you do, who you have with you, and what checks you're able to make. Now, there is a ton of detail in this game with other things that you're able to do. For example, the resources all have benefits for you that you're able to use them when you're in a pinch. You're also going to be gaining adventure cards that are absolutely pivotal for you to use when you're doing certain things, such as fighting or making skill checks when you want to really be able to make it, or perhaps healing yourself as well. There's also going to be enemies that have special abilities that are very interesting, but you also have weapons that have special abilities, so you're able to hit them back very strongly as well. And you also always have that option to swap out and play a different character. So where these characters do have different skills, they can be really interesting to swap them out and try someone new, especially as you unlock them, because there are 6 starting characters, but you'll unlock more throughout the game, and they can become more and more interesting and quirky. And you're also going to be uncovering more and more of the story, because you're trying to save your father, you're trying to save up as much money as possible, and legend has it there is a dragon to the north that might be able to help you. But other than that, if you can open up your glassblowing factory again, perhaps you can make some money for the family as well. Not nearly enough to make up for the debt, but depending on everything that you're able to do throughout the game, perhaps you're able to save up enough by the end of all of your days. So if you'd like to check out more about this game, you can check out the link down below for everything that Red Raven Games has planned. This has been a preview for Song of Silveranth. I've been Professor Meg, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!